union representing some 1,800 pilots at WestJet and Swoop Airlines could be on the picket line Friday morning after issuing strike notices last night. So passengers, of course, wondering what this means for their upcoming travel plans. Let's go to Calgary International Airport now. That is where we find Michael King. Michael, obviously the timing is incredibly challenging for a lot of people. Timing is a weapon of sorts when it comes to the negotiations right ahead of the May-long weekend. But in terms of where things stand in the negotiations, is there any progress? Where are they?
Well, Anthony, if we go back and look at a month ago, we saw this coming on the horizon. The union representing the pilots held a strike vote, and 93% of pilots taking part voted in favor of job action. Last night, we saw that become a reality, starting a 72-hour clock, which expires 5 a.m. Eastern on Friday. If we don't see a resolution by then, we are going to see massive disruptions to both WestJet and Swoop flights across the country. The Airline Pilots Association says the job action could include grounding all aircraft, creating chaos across the country and abroad. The top issues in contract negotiations are, of course, job protection and pay, as well as scheduling.
It's currently approximately a 45% wage gap between a lot of the North American carriers and WestJet. That gap, we recognize, is not going to close overnight, but we do need to narrow the gap and prevent that gap from further spreading. And again, this is to keep the experienced pilots here at WestJet and to attract new pilots to WestJet, so that we can once again be a growth company that our CEO states he wants.
Now, WestJet has also issued a lockout notice in response to the union's strike notification. A statement from the airline reads in part that the decision to issue lockout notice in response to the actions taken by the union was not one that was made lightly, and they sincerely regret the inconvenience and uncertainty this continues to cause to our guests. It goes on to say that our commitment and priority remains at the bargaining table, where they'll continue to work around the clock to come to a reasonable agreement as soon as possible in an effort to prevent labor action.
Michael, obviously, as I mentioned at the beginning, timing really not playing in their favor in terms of for passengers. This raises a lot of concern for them, of course, as they try to book and fly out on one of the busiest travel weekends of the year. What options do people have?
Well, first and foremost, you want to make sure that if you are flying, you have your email address and your phone number linked to your reservation. That's how the airline's going to get in contact with you if there are cancellations. If we do start seeing cancellations, then the airline will go through and refund people or reaccommodate. That could mean you get rebooked on another airline. The other option is if your flights are not flexible, if your travel destination, you need to be there. When we spoke with one travel agent, they say it's time to start looking at options right now.
We've spent probably the last week, in particular the last week, but even probably a couple weeks before that, booking a lot of refundable tickets with alternative carriers, sometimes as direct as possible, but sometimes via Toronto or Montreal, or in some cases the United States, just to reassure people that they will actually get to their destination for that cruise or wedding or family event that can't be postponed by 2 or 3 days while they're delayed on travel.
So, Anthony, as you said, we're heading into one of the busiest parts of the travel season, so a lot of uncertainty with passengers here in Calgary and across the country, really hoping that both sides come to a resolution.
Yeah, right now the standoff in full force, and the travel plans for thousands of people across this country hang in the balance. Michael, we appreciate the update. That is Michael King joining us from Calgary International Airport. Thank you again, Michael.